Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach Cindy Chavez here. Today is Tuesday, April the 24th, 2018, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, your first daily dose of happy for the day. And Cindy, I was celebrating yesterday because we finally got the gorgeous spring weather that I've been waiting for. And I looked at the weather forecast, and guess what we get today, too? The same gorgeous spring weather. So I'm pleased as can be.
You're on a streak.
I'm on a streak, yeah, 2 in a row.
Oh, that's wonderful. I know how long you've been waiting for it.
God, so long. I had such a good time. I got my walk in yesterday, and I was grinning ear to ear the entire walk. Because, this is like the ideal weather. This is the one that I always visualize when I want to change the weather pattern. That's what we're getting right now. The upper 60s, low 70s, dry, not really humid, and blue skies. I usually include puffy white clouds, but yesterday the blue sky was just pure blue. There wasn't a cloud to be seen in any direction. And it was just
that
gorgeous.
Might be even better at this point, right? No rain clouds, no snow clouds, no stay away clouds.
Yeah, we definitely need the rain for the gardening, but on the other hand, we want it. See, here's the thing: when you run a gardening business, what you want to have happen is for it to rain at night, because then you can do your gardening during the day, but you still get the rain for the plants.
Right.
So we're hoping for rain at night. Now, the weather forecast doesn't always cooperate with us on that, but that's what we're aiming for. So I'll just keep focusing on my blue skies. To me,
I would love to wake up to a beautiful sunny day and the plants have already been watered.
Yeah, how about that? That'd be really good, especially where you are, what part of the country you're in, because you need to water the plants regularly, I would think.
Well, we have a really high humidity, and in the summer we get a lot of rain here.
Oh, okay.
I say that, but the last year everything's been different. So the weather's been really different. I was just looking this morning, and I used to always think about when I grew up in California. So there was that no humidity in the air or relatively very low humidity, and the temperature will drop. When the sun goes down, the temperature will drop maybe 20 or 30 degrees sometimes. It wouldn't be unlikely to have a 80 degree day and then a 50 degree at night. And here in the South, that generally isn't the way it is because there's so much humidity that it just stays warm. And lately we've been having that drop. Like it'll be 80 degrees in the day and then in the 50s at night. It's like, wow, this is so weird for me anyway.
Well,
but
it's nice, isn't it?
They're doing well.
Yeah, I imagine they are. Yeah. But it's nice too when you get that drop like that. It cools things off.
Oh, yes. I'm loving it. It can stay. That part can stay. Yeah, no, it's been really great. So that's been nice. And we put, more plants, more flowers in. And we had some beautiful flowers, and then we came out and all the leaves were like full of holes.
Oh.
And we discovered it was slugs.
Oh, yeah.
And I've never seen a slug in the garden ever. And so I was like, I never see a slug. It can't be a slug. So we looked up, and do you know that slugs apparently like beer?
Really?
So we were joking about it. We said, well, we'll have to put a saucer of beer out there. We said, and I was joking, like, well, I hope they don't mind cheap beer because I don't want to buy them imported beer. And so we did a Google search, and there are all these people going, no, that Budweiser is what they like the best.
Budweiser, oh, okay.
Are you kidding me? So we put out 2 saucers of beer before we went to sleep. And when we woke up the next morning, the slugs had arrived and drank themselves to death. And so we were laughing about, wow, look, I had never seen one, and here they are. So we cleaned it all up, emptied them out, and we put out a little bit more. And then we went to brunch and running errands. And we came back, and I remembered when we were coming back up, walking by the garden, I thought, oh, yeah, the little saucers. And then I thought to myself, no, I think they come out at night. Nope. Slugs are day drinkers.
Really?
They were there in the beer again.
Mm-hmm. So how much beer do you have to put out before you eliminate the slugs?
Well, I don't know. I guess it depends on how many there are and how far they're willing to come. I don't know.
How many cases of beer does it take to get rid of a slug colony?
Well, we've only invested in 1 bottle so far.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because
So I don't
otherwise that
know,
could
but
get expensive.
well, what was funny was I always picture them going impossibly slow, but we were only gone for a short time. We come back and there's a bunch more. I was like, where are they coming from and how fast are they getting here? I kind of want video evidence of this.
That is
Anyway,
crazy.
that was funny.
Party over at the Chavez house.
Right? Exactly. Exactly. They're happy about the new salad bar that we put in full of daisies,
Yes.
and now we have beer. So
Beer and munchies. What a better way to go, right?
oh my goodness, so funny.
So,
Yeah, we're enjoying the weather too, and I'm so thankful that you finally have gotten some.
oh, me too. I still think about Louise's cousins who live up in near the northern border of the country, near Canada. And just like a week ago, Heidi, her cousin, posted a photo of, I think it was her backyard, and it was just covered with snow. So they're still dealing with snow. So if you're living in the northern climes and you're still dealing with snow, the message we have for you is things are warming up.
Yeah,
That
well,
snow's going to go.
I got an email from a client yesterday, well, Sunday, that said it was snowing. Yeah, where they were. So, it's still snowing in some places, but it's going to get warmer.
It's been a cold winter by comparison. Particularly, it's been a cold spring, really, more than anything else. The winter was not terribly cold compared to normal. It was, cold, but I think it was fairly normal in that sense. But the spring's been really, like, good 10 degrees colder than normal. So, very strange, but that's okay. We're still enjoying ourselves. We're still having a good time. And I just get my walks in, so, hey, I'm happy.
That's it. It's possible to be happy in any weather. So
it is.
Don't let it get you down.
Absolutely. It's a question of literally mind over matter. It's literally you change your mind and it doesn't matter anymore. That's not quite what we mean by it, but
well, it could. It absolutely could. I actually like that. That's really good.
So, how was your weekend? Oh, you celebrated something this weekend, didn't you?
I did. My birthday was Sunday, and so I started actually celebrating Friday with a dinner with some friends. And then, I was thinking about it right before the call. Kind of funny, when I was asked to choose where I would like to have dinner on the rest of the weekend, on Saturday and Sunday for my birthday dinners, I had more than one. The two or three, I think, of my favorite restaurants were closed on Sunday.
No kidding.
And I started thinking about because the whole time I said, well, that's okay. Well, we'll go somewhere new. And I thought that could have been a disappointment. It's like, the place I really wanted to go is closed. But I didn't feel like that. I just said, let's go somewhere else. And we actually went to another restaurant that I have been there once before, but we don't go there too often. And it was fabulous. So I celebrated a birthday. And then yesterday I took the day off because I figured if my birthday fell on a Sunday, I could have Monday off,
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Why not?
Like when Christmas or Easter fall on a Sunday, we get Easter Monday.
Exactly.
I'm taking birthday Monday.
There you go. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, so I had lots of fun, lots of celebrating. Threw a party for the slugs,
Well, I'm glad that the slugs got I don't know, spiffy. Is that the word, squiffy?
a couple snails showed up too. So yeah, it was a good weekend though, really good, and the weather was beautiful, so that always adds to
yes,
adds to the celebration to have that pretty weather. You're right though, a colder spring than normal, because to have it be the third week in April, or almost now the end of April, the 24th today, and have it still being in the 50s at night here, that's like unheard of. So
very unusual. Yeah,
we're just gonna love it.
Good stuff. Yeah, gotta love it. Actually, I have a similar decision to make of my own, because my birthday's in about 10 days or so. And Louise was asking me, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go for dinner? And I thought about it, and I said, well, I'd like to go to a place called the Coast Guard House, which used to be a Coast Guard house on the shore in Rhode Island. So, I mean, it's a really gorgeous locale. You're right on the ocean. It's just a beautiful place to eat. And she said, okay, we'll do that. And then I thought about it, and I realized that my birthday's on May 4th. Early May is not always a really warm time. And if you're going to go to the shore to eat dinner, you want to eat al fresco. You want to eat outside because that's the only way to
Sure.
do it. I mean, you can eat inside. They have these gorgeous, I mean, it's wall-to-wall windows inside, so even during the winter you can have a really nice view. But it's so much better outside. And I said to myself, what if it's not really warm? That's not really the ideal for me. So I said, why don't we put the dinner off till like, just before Memorial Day or something like that, when we know it's going to be really warm, when we know it's going to be nice out. And so that's what we're going to do. I'm not even going to go out for dinner on my birthday. We're going to do it like 3 weeks later.
Well, I'm all for doing it when you think you're going to have the
Yeah.
most fun and the most pleasant weather. I mean, yeah, it would. I totally get that. I know we have places like that here too, where the inside is fine, but if you get to sit outside, that's really and you've got the Coast Guard house. I'm guessing it's got an ocean view. So
Oh, it's a fabulous ocean view. I mean, you're under these little umbrellas. You feel like you're on vacation. You're under these little umbrellas, tables with the umbrellas and all that kind of thing. And it's ocean view for like 180 degrees, and you're right next to it. And there's a beach off on the side, so if there are people on the beach, you can watch the people frolicking on the beach or windsurfing or whatever it is that they're doing. I mean, it is, you got the seagulls flying in. It's a beautiful, beautiful place to be. In almost any sunny weather, no matter what the temperature. If it's really hot, if it's like 100 degrees, then it's not so good. But it's rarely like that because, how it is with large bodies of water, they tend to make temperatures more temperate. And that
Sure.
certainly happens here, too. So unless the temperatures are really, really warm or really, really cold, being outside is the place to be. Yeah, it's good. Life is good.
Life is good. I like the way you planned it too, and said, "No, we have a good chance of the weather being better here. Let's just do it there, and then just drop it."
Yeah, yeah, because it really isn't all that big of a deal to me to do it on the day. The more
Well,
important.
you can celebrate on the day, and then you have another celebration to look forward to a few
That's
weeks
true.
later.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and we will. I mean, Louise already asked me what should we make here at home. And I still haven't answered her question, but she'll ask me. I can count on her to ask me at least 2 or 3 times between now and then. So I have a little time to figure it out.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Sounds like a party.
So let's see. Where are we in the book now? We are on. Are we? Let's see. Which
We
section?
are on a section in the paper book. It's page 79. We're reading through Money and the Law of Attraction, Esther and Jerry Hicks, Learning to Attract Wealth, Health, and Happiness. And the section that we're on, the little subsection is called "Can We Get Something Without Giving?"
Oh yes. Okay. All right. Got that one. So I'll do Jerry. You do Abraham.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, so Jerry says, so how can people get past the belief that they must give $1 worth of something in order to get $1 worth of something?
Abraham says, "Your knowledge in all things comes only through life experience. But your life experience comes as a result of the thoughts that you're thinking. So even though you may have wanted something for a very long time, if your thoughts have been upon the absence of it, then it could not come to you. And so from your personal experience, you come to the conclusion that it's not possible or that it is a struggle. In other words, you come to many valid conclusions about things being hard when you have led a difficult life. It's our desire to help you understand what is really at the heart of that self-created struggle. We want to help you begin from a different premise and understand the laws at the basis of all things. A new understanding of the laws of the universe and a willingness to begin telling a different story will give you different results. And those different results will then give you different beliefs or knowledge. You are the one and the only one who can evaluate your effectiveness. No one has the ability to discern where you stand relative to where you are wanting to be, and nobody else can decide where you should be, only you."
That last paragraph, that one ties in with what I've been kind of mulling about in my mind the last few days. You are the one and the only one who can evaluate your effectiveness. No one else has the ability to discern where you stand relative to where you are wanting to be, and no one else can decide where you should be, or only you. You are the one, the only one who can evaluate your effectiveness. I keep thinking about that. I hadn't worded it the way they're saying it here, but I keep thinking about that. One thought that keeps coming to me, and this is a little bit controversial in LOA circles, so I want to see what your take is on it. I really believe our best way to attract what we want into our lives is to get ourselves into the happiest place we can be and to stay there as much as we possibly can throughout the day and day after day after day, and to always be striving to have a really, really happy and joyful and exciting and clarifying and just a wonderful experience with every single thing that goes on in life. But I've had other people, including some of the co-hosts here on the show, say to me, well, you can't always expect everything to go right, and besides, you wouldn't want to because then there'd be no contrast. And I have trouble buying into that idea because I think contrast is always there anyway. I think the real question is how do you react to it? So I'm curious to know what's your take on that.
Well, I want to weave in the last line of the first paragraph because I think it's relative to your question.
Okay.
Where it says, in other words, you come to many valid conclusions about things being hard when you have led a difficult life. And so, those conclusions we come to, Abraham is saying, those conclusions are valid. And when we go through things that are hard, we draw those kind of conclusions. Now, learning how not to draw a conclusion is a powerful skill. Right? I mean, you've heard me say that before. It's like no conclusions. As soon as we draw a conclusion, it's like, well, that's the way it is. But it doesn't have to be. And when you were talking about going through life and just getting as happy as you can, it reminded me of where Neville Goddard says to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled.
Right.
One of my early mentors, who actually kind of turned me on to Neville Goddard, used to say that in a different way about a process of meditating, or I don't even want to say meditating, but alignment, a process of focused alignment where you bring yourself into assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. He would say, close your eyes, fall in love, and stay there. And it's kind of what you just said. It's like, get as happy as you can and stay in that place. And so
pretty much.
Yes, I agree with that being very effective and being the goal. And I also know that contrast is here because we live on planet Earth and there's contrast. And so I think that contrast allows us to get clear on what it is we want. And it also allows us a point of appreciation for things that aren't the contrast, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like how much you're appreciating spring right now because it took so long to get here.
It's true. And I think there's more to it than that. I don't think there's any conflict. And this may be where some of the confusion comes into this. But I don't think there's any conflict between, on the one hand, wanting to be joyful, on the other hand, wanting to be joyful all the time and feeling joy all the time, and on the other hand, experiencing contrast. I think you can actually do both.
I do too. Because,
I mean, the point of contrast is simply to have the option of choosing, yes, I want that, or no, I don't want that. It does not necessarily imply that you have to get bent out of shape about it.
Or that you have to suffer, or that it has to be hard.
That's right. That's exactly right. So, yeah, I think we're on the right.
I also believe that we can suffer, we can experience things that feel hard, and still hold on to our joy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which
means we aren't really suffering at that point, because suffering is feeling miserable. Suffering is choosing to feel miserable in the face of whatever it is we're faced with. It's like the story that Joel likes to tell about the guy from Poland. Poland, of course, has been through all kinds of craziness, particularly before and during the World Wars and so forth. And they've been occupied. People have been slaughtered. They've had all kinds of terrible things happen. And in the story that Joel tells, this Polish guy is flying on a plane or something, and there's somebody else he's talking with, and somebody else says, I've always admired the Poles because of how much they've had to suffer. And the Polish guy gets his hackles up and says, the Polish people have never suffered. We have endured a lot, but we absolutely never suffer.
There we go.
And that's the difference right there. He just expressed the difference. Sure, you can endure a lot, but how are you going to react to it?
Well, suffering has to do with the stories that we're telling ourselves about whatever it is we're enduring.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right? I mean, we can really add to our misery by the stories that we tell in our head and what we're making something mean and what we're making it mean about us.
Yep.
And we don't have to do that. I can think of times when I've been in a situation where I didn't lose my joy and yet I still had maybe physical pain. You know, any woman that's had a baby can probably relate to something like that. And so we do go through things that are difficult, and holding on to our joy in those times of difficulty is a skill that we can develop.
Great point.
But we have to choose it.
Yes.
And it really has a lot to do, if not everything to do, with the story that we're telling about whatever it is we're going through.
And that's it. It's the story, isn't it?
I
mean, it always comes back to the stories.
It does.
That's
really
why
does.
I mean, I'm convinced that, like with the podcast, I want us to always be telling more stories. I say that to everybody, right? We need to figure out a way to tell more stories. And it's true. I mean, in fact, I have a longer-term dream. Well, first of all, you know, one of my longer-term dreams is to get to the point where the podcast is 24/7. But beyond that, I even have more dreams, like including, I don't know what to call them, video casts. They're not podcasts, they're video included. And even getting it to the point where we're doing programs, you know, like you get on a television channel or something like that, and having the programs being about better feeling stories, you know, and actually presenting the better feeling stories. I mean, the list of possibilities is endless, but the common theme to all of these little dreams I've been having is I want more and more and more and more and more stories, because the stories are everything.
Well, and it's funny, I'm looking at the paragraphs we just read, and right in the middle, a new understanding of the laws of the universe and a willingness to begin telling a different story will give you different results.
Yeah.
Because I thought to myself, when you said, you know, it's always about the story, I thought, yeah, and that's what they're talking about when they talk about the thoughts that we're choosing. But no, they're actually even using the word story.
They are.
Just telling a different story. And if you're in a place where, or when, because we get there sometimes, when we are in that place where things are difficult, sometimes just asking ourselves, what's a better story I can tell about this? I mean, there's always a better one we can tell.
There is. And the interesting thing is, even when we're telling a good story, there's still a better one.
Right.
Isn't that something?
So it's a skill that we can develop. We just need to learn how.
Yeah.
It takes some focus. It takes some practice.
The other thing that I've really noticed, and I noticed this particularly after the Abraham workshop this weekend, because I got to go to my first Abraham workshop on Saturday.
Oh, my goodness. Well, we need to talk about that.
Oh, okay. Well, I've talked about the last few shows, but I don't mind talking about it again. But no, it was good. It was a good experience. It's very much like what I see in the videos, so I can't say I was surprised by any of it. A lot of it was relatively basic stuff, which is okay. Nothing wrong with that. I did pick up a couple of new things. One thing I did was I saw for the first time Abraham presenting the 5-step process as opposed to the 3-step process, where they basically had 2 more steps to kind of, you know, accelerate the thing and you know, get it to the point where you're getting stuff faster and so forth. But the way they presented it, I finally understood what all 5 steps were. So that was worth seeing just for that. And also the word for the day was satisfaction, feeling satisfied. A lot of the stories they told had to do with feeling satisfied and feeling satisfaction, with the idea that if you're feeling satisfaction, then you're in that high-flying place, you're feeling good, and more good stuff happens. So those were my 2 big takeaways. They were really good. Plus, well, actually, there was a third one, too. I did go with a couple of questions. I didn't really have in mind that I really desperately wanted to talk to Abraham, like I needed to have their guidance about stuff. You know, it's like, well, you're supposed to have questions when you go to this thing, so I had questions ready. It was that kind of a thing.
Right.
And when I got there, I had my questions in mind. I knew exactly what they were. I had known them for about a month now. But when it came time to raise your hand and try to get picked by Abraham, I didn't raise my hand. And Louise turned to me, aren't you going to raise your hand? And I said, no, I'm not. And she looked at me quizzically, and then the second round came, and I still didn't raise my hand. And I finally explained to her, I don't feel like I have a need to get my questions answered. and I didn't really explain it to her at the time, but I told her afterward, it was because I felt like, in a sense, my questions had been answered. Not so much in anything that they'd said, but just by being there and experiencing what, the people who do get up into the chair and the questions they're asking and so forth, all of that kind of added up in my head. I couldn't even tell you exactly how it happened because the conclusion, when I look at the conclusion I came to and when I look at what happened, I can't connect them. But the conclusion that came into my head as a result of all that was, all you're doing, Walt, when you're focusing on those questions is distracting yourself from the real task, which is to feel great all the time. And as soon as I understood that, I didn't want to ask the questions anymore.
Maybe you gave yourself the answer they were going to give you.
Maybe that's what it was. I mean, like Wendy pointed out, they say that everybody who goes there is going to have their questions answered, even if they don't get up in the chair. Well, I got my questions answered, just not the way I expected.
Now, did Wendy go too?
No. Wendy wasn't able to come up, but Louise and I went together, so that was great. Yeah, we got to experience it together. And then we had we went to our favorite diner in southwestern Connecticut. It's a diner that serves absolutely delicious Greek gyros, and I mean, just the best you've ever had. And so, I mean, you know how it is if you go to an Abraham workshop, your vibration is really high anyway. Afterward, you're feeling really good. We go to eat at the restaurant, eating some of our favorite food. And I got to tell you, I mentioned this yesterday too, that food tasted better than it has ever tasted before because our vibration was so high. I mean, Louise and I were hardly even talking. It was like, oh, God, I got to enjoy every bite of this.
That's awesome. That's so much fun. Oh, well, that's so exciting. I'm surprised. I didn't know. Very good.
I thought I told you. I'm sorry. I thought I told everybody, but I guess I missed you. So,
well, what's funny is I knew you were going in April, like way back, like months ago. I knew you were going in April, but I hadn't thought about it again, and I didn't know which weekend it was. So.
Yeah. No, it was this past weekend. It was great.
So can you tell us?
Yeah.
the 5 steps? Because
Well,
there's an extra 2 that you hadn't focused on before.
Yeah. Well, the first step is ask. Everybody knows that one. Second step is to receive, a little bit different from the way The Secret does it. And then the third step is to allow, which is also very Abrahamic. That's the way they present it. It seems kind of weird to receive before you allow, but it does actually work when you work out the logic of it. Because receive doesn't mean that necessarily that it's manifested yet. It just means it's being delivered. It's in the vortex. It's ready there. It's been delivered. It's just you got to be able to take it in. So, the third step, receiving, means actually letting it in, getting rid of the resistance, just letting it come. The fourth step is once you've gotten past the third step, then you want to take advantage of that being in receiving mode and really get your energy up in a big way. So you're kind of stirring the pot and getting yourself really, really excited. And you're just finding excitement about everything, not just the one thing that you were focused on, but on everything that's going on, which is kind of like what we were talking about. That's where you tell your good feeling stories and so forth. And then once you're in that spot, then the fifth step is to go back to step 1 and do your new ask from your new higher level of vibration.
Oh, wow. So, when you said that fourth step, it reminded me of what you had begun doing with the mirror work is that sort of first revelation of, and it was like expanding the feeling, making it bigger, expanding that excitement.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And it's one of the reasons why I've continued to do the mirror work even after I achieved the initial goal of getting rid of that negative self-talk. Because I figure, okay, I've got that going. Let's see what else we can do with it. Let's see what the next level is. So
I actually wrote 1 through 5, I wrote ask, receive, allow, expand, excitement, and then a new ask.
Nice. Yeah. Nice way to shorten it. That's good.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yay.
And it makes a lot of sense when you think about it because we don't just want one ask. It's like, okay, you only get one, sit down. No,
so it keeps on going,
That's right.
It's like a circle. It's circular. It keeps on going. And then you have the new ask and you go through the process again.
Yep. So that new ask becomes, and you know what the other thing about the new ask is? The new ask not only becomes your next ask, but it also becomes yet another reason to feel excited.
Right. It just builds and builds.
Yeah.
Till you just can't take it anymore and you just have to go to sleep because there's just too much happiness. So that's good. I like it. And what I've realized is that's sort of a natural progression. I mean, I think if we think about it, we could remember a time when we've actually done that without recognizing we were doing those steps.
I
And
think so. Yeah.
and sometimes the new ask is something different, where the old ask, it's not even that important to us anymore.
Sure. I mean, our needs change and our desires change and our thoughts change over time. It's not like that's probably one of the most important thought patterns to break. The idea that you can only ask for so much, when in fact,
Well, like with you having the question and then being like completely feeling like, I don't feel like I have any need to ask this question.
yes,
Like it's just, sort of like being hungry and then being like, nope, I'm just not hungry.
just not hungry.
I just don't have I just don't need to ask it. I totally get
But
that.
knowing very well that whatever your next thing is that you want to ask about, you can still ask. It's not like you're not shut out.
Well, I'm looking at the book and realizing the next section is.
Oh yeah. I guess we better read this one, especially now that we're in that higher vibrational point, right?
Yeah. So the subtitle is "They Want to Win the Lottery Fortune."
Which you and I discussed before the show. Lottery fortune. That's a really strange way of saying something, but
Yeah, it really sounded funny to me.
yeah.
Okay.
But okay.
But,
Well,
what does Jerry say?
Okay, here's what Jerry says. He says, many people are hoping for some major financial windfall to come to them to free them from debt or to release them from working at something they don't want to work at in order to receive money. The thing I hear them say most often is that they want to win the lottery, where they'll get their abundance in exchange for someone else losing theirs. What a way to look at it.
Abraham says, if their expectation were in a place that would allow it, then that could be a way for money to come to them. But most know the odds against that. And so their expectation for winning the lottery is not in a powerful place either.
So Jerry asks, so how does hoping to win relate to expecting to win?
Just as hoping is more productive than doubting, expecting is much more productive than hoping.
Then how could people begin to expect something that their life experience hasn't yet shown them? How can you expect something that you haven't experienced?
You do not have to have money to attract money, but you cannot feel poor and attract money. The key is you have to find ways of improving the way you feel from right where you stand before things can begin to change. I'm going to read that sentence again. The key is you have to find ways of improving the way you feel from right where you stand before things can begin to change. By softening your attention to the things that are going wrong, by beginning to tell stories that lean more in the direction of what you want instead of in the direction of what you've got, your vibration will shift. Your point of attraction will shift, and you will get different results. And in a short time, because of the different results you are then getting, you will then have beliefs or knowledge of abundance that will easily perpetuate more of the same. People often say the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, and that's why. Look for reasons to feel good. Identify what you want and hold your thoughts in a place that feels good. It's funny up here where it says that most know the odds against that.
Right. Yeah.
So their expectation. And I remember one time buying a lottery ticket, and I was behind another person in line who was buying a ticket. And as he bought the ticket, and he bought more than one, he bought a few tickets. And as he turned around, he said, I don't know why I buy these. I'm not going to win anyway. And it was funny. I have that memory because it was right during a time when I was beginning to learn about the law of attraction. I was beginning to learn about how important our beliefs were and how some beliefs could really limit us and, all of that. And here's this guy just like, yeah, I don't know why I'm buying this. I'm not going to win anyway. And I was like, oh my goodness, I just saw it in action.
Yeah, right.
So it's really like, wow. I'm going to say, yeah, you're probably not.
Yeah, I'll agree with that bet.
Right, exactly.
Like, where can I cash my ticket? Oh boy,
interesting. The whole idea. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. I know. I grew up hearing that statement.
Oh yeah.
And so, but the thing I thought was really interesting is that question. It says, the thing I hear Jerry saying, the thing I hear them say the most is that they want to win the lottery where they'll get their abundance in exchange for someone else
losing theirs. Yes.
I've never really thought of it, in those terms.
Well, that's a good thing that you've never thought about it in those terms, because you can think about anything you want to in those terms. But the problem is it's not the complete picture. It's a picture that assumes that if one person gains, another person has to lose, which is almost never the case, by the way. I mean,
and it's also like the linchpin there of like scarcity mentality, right? It's like there's only so much, and I can't have more. If I do, then you're going to have less. And
that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that's like the most self-defeating thing that I'm kind of surprised Jerry said it, because Jerry was always very successful in his life. For him to say that, that's like, whoa. Like, were you okay that day, Jerry?
Well, it's funny. I might have brought this up, in another podcast, since we've been reading through this book and talking about money and talking about my mantra that I chose a month or so ago of I feel rich.
Yeah.
But there's a quote, and I should have looked it up. The quote is something like, You'll never be able to be rich until you can be poor without feeling deprived.
Good point.
And I thought, reading this, well, there we're going back to the feelings again.
Mm-hmm.
You told me the story about when you were young and your first job was a bank teller, and the man came in with the ginormous wad of $1 bills.
Yes.
And how when you asked him, why do you keep your money like that? He said, because this way I'm wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
Like he felt rich.
He did.
You could boil that whole wad of cash down to just 2 bills. He wouldn't have felt as rich, right?
Exactly. Yeah. You make it, I don't know how much money he had in the roll there, but if it was $1,000 and it was only 10 $100 bills, it wouldn't feel as big.
Yeah, it wouldn't feel as big. So I thought, well, there we go back to the feeling.
Feeling and stories. Those are the two things. And we tell the stories in order to build the feelings up.
Well, winning the lottery, it is interesting because we do hear a lot of people say it. I've probably said it myself, making a comment about we need to win the lottery, or I want to win the lottery. And yet there's so many comments that I've heard from people. Like, I know somebody that talked about winning the lottery and yet always said, well, if you win the lottery, the amount of taxes you have to pay is ridiculous. And so I would be like, well, because you obviously don't want to think about paying those taxes, then you'll probably keep yourself from winning the lottery.
Congratulations.
And there's a lot of other things that happen. Like people say, oh, if you win the lottery, everybody is going to be calling you. People that claim to be relatives are going to come out of the woodwork, and it's like all these reasons that people don't really want to win the lottery.
Yeah.
Even people that say they want to win the lottery, as soon as it becomes, a real potential happening, they get nervous about paying taxes and people wanting their money and all these different things. And so there isn't a real sense of allowing and receiving going on.
Not at all. Just the opposite.
I think that would be the receiving, right? Ask, okay, I want to win the lottery, and then receive. That's the point where where you're open to receiving it. And so as soon as you start saying, well, if I win the lottery, every person I've ever met is going to be banging down my door to get part of it. And probably the IRS is going to want a big chunk. Okay, I am not in receiving mode at that point.
Not even close. No. And I wonder how many people who say those things realize that.
I don't think they do.
I don't think they do
I
either.
remember one time we had this discussion here, and we started talking about, okay, what if we were in the position where we knew whether a lottery or whatever, just a gigantic amount of money was coming our way? What would we do? What would we really do?
I'll tell you what I would do. I'd jump up and down.
So we started discussing what we would do, like exactly the plans that we would make. And I'm telling you, talk about a high flying vibe. It was so much fun just to go through the motions of knowing how we would allocate it and what we would invest and it was like just for itself, not even for anything that came of it. It was so much fun to go through that process because it was just a great vibe.
It reminds me of an old television show that you probably remember, that I know I remember, called the Beverly Hillbillies.
Yep.
And they always showed the same introduction, as they always do with TV shows, right? In the introduction, the little song they sing is about how Jed is out hunting, ends up firing a shot, up sprouts an oil well, and they realize that they're all wealthy. And he goes back to tell the kinfolk about it, and the kinfolk are all jumping up and down, celebrating, hey, we made all this money, hooray! That's what I think about when I think about this idea of, what would it be like if you knew that you were going to win the lottery. That's what it feels like.
Yeah. I actually had a client one time that was telling me that they wanted a certain thing, and we were hopeful that it was coming. And it wasn't a monetary thing. It was just an opportunity. And I said, well, tell me this. What would you do right now? Like, if you found out that, yes, this was happening, what would you do? And they said, I would run and jump on my bed and shout and scream and sing and tell everybody. And I said, okay, well, go do that now.
Go do that, right. Yes.
Go do that now.
And that's where the rubber meets the road. That's actually a great way to find out how much resistance we have.
Is a pre-celebration?
Well, first of all, asking yourself what you would do as a celebration beforehand if you knew it was coming, and then challenge yourself to do it. And the moment that you challenge yourself, that gut twisting thing that you feel, that's your resistance. Mm-hmm. It's the thing that keeps you from saying, well, I'm not going to actually go jump on my bed. That would be, blah, 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 blah. That's the resistance. It's all right there.
Yeah. So this next section, living abundantly is not magic.
That's one of those things where it can go either way.
I might have to have a debate here. Okay.
Let's see what Abraham has to say first.
Abraham says, as we explain, from our perspective, the abundant nature of your universe and the potential for abundance that is always available to you, we understand that our knowledge does not become your knowledge only because you have read our words. If we were to ask you to trust what we say or to just try to understand, you cannot just adopt our understanding as your own, for it is only your own life experience that brings knowledge to you. The beliefs that you hold as a result of your own experience are very strong, and we understand that you cannot release them immediately and replace them with others, even though we know there are many more productive beliefs that you could foster. But there's something that you can begin today that will make a profound difference in the way your life unfolds that does not require an immediate releasing of the beliefs that you currently hold. Start telling a more positive, better feeling story about your life and the things that are important to you. Do not write your story like a factual documentary, weighing all the pros and cons of your experience, but instead tell the uplifting, fanciful, magical story of the wonder of your own life and watch what happens. It will feel like magic as your life begins to transform right before your eyes. But it is not by magic. It is by the power of the laws of the universe and your deliberate alignment with those laws.
Yeah, those last two sentences really do address the subject, which is living abundantly is not magic. It will feel like magic, but it's actually the laws of the universe.
And yet, see, I believe that magic adheres to the laws of the universe. I mean, those are the Hermetic principles that cause magic to be magical and to actually happen. There's a saying in Vedantic philosophy that there are only two symptoms of being enlightened. One is that you stop worrying, and two is that you experience more meaningful coincidence or synchronicities, or what some people call magic. So I still think that it might just be semantics. It's not stage magic where we can just pull a rabbit out of a hat, but it definitely has a magical sense to it. And Abraham even says that right here, right? It will feel like magic. And your life will begin to transform right before your eyes. So I think that the power of the laws of the universe and are being able to deliberately align with those laws, I kind of want to put that in the magic category.
I understand, and
Yeah.
that's why I say this is one of those things that can go either way. In fact, I'm trying to remember who said it. It may have been Aldous Huxley. I can't remember who it was, but maybe it was Arthur Clarke, whoever it was, said that, and I'm going to probably get the quote wrong, any sufficiently advanced technology or science appears magic.
It's Arthur C. Clarke. It's any
Okay.
sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable.
From
magic.
Okay, there it is. Yeah, yeah, and that actually says it beautifully. Until you understand it as science, it's magic.
True, and I think that they are one and the same a lot of times.
Yeah, they really are.
Yeah.
In fact, the best scientist is the one who discovers how the whole thing works it all out, publishes it, and still feels that it's magical.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it is. And recognizing that, the thing that makes it not magic is when we recognize that we can be deliberate about it.
Yeah.
Right? It's like it's not just happening by magic, unless I'm deciding to make the magic.
Pretty much. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, another way to say the same thing, if it's somebody who's having trouble with the word magic and it's just throwing them off, let's just turn around and say it a different way. Any scientist who comes to a conclusion about how something works and then still marvels at the whole thing happening is a good scientist, because they're scientists who don't feel like they have all the answers yet. They're the ones who think that I have this great insight and I've barely begun to peel back the whole thing. This is so exciting.
And it is so exciting. And I think that I don't know, it doesn't get less exciting because you now know how it's done.
Right.
It gets more exciting. And there's always a deeper depth that we can swim to. So it's like, it just gets better and better. And as we hone those skills, we become better at deliberate creation. We become more powerful magicians.
Speaking of magicians, one of the things that I always felt a little bit kind of funky about, didn't feel quite right, was the magician who said, well, I don't want to show you how the trick is done because otherwise it wouldn't be magic. The magicians, and there are very few in number, the magicians who are willing to show you the trick, they're the ones I admire. And to give you an example, there was a young man I met back when I was young. We were both living out in Oregon at the time. And he was a Mormon, and he was also a really nice, friendly, lighthearted kind of guy, and he was really skilled at sleight of hand. He was really, really good at it. And he showed us a few tricks, and most of us were like, oh, really, that was really nice. But I was really enthralled, and I got to talking to him about it. And he did this one sleight of hand thing where, I forget exactly what it was, but he shifted something from his hand to up a sleeve or another hand or something like that. And I asked him, would you mind showing that to me slowly? I want to see what you do. And he says, well, I'll try. It's hard to do it slowly. You can only really learn to do it quickly, otherwise you can't do it, but I'll try to do it. And he slowed himself down as much as he could, and I could barely see the flick of the thing shifting from one place to the other. And you know what? That was even more entertaining than seeing the sleight of hand. I thought that was terrific. Like, whoa, how does he do that? And he told me, I can't slow it down anymore than that. That's as slow as I can do it.
And you're right. Most of the time, magicians or stage magicians are not going to want to show you.
No, it's the fear of scarcity again. The fear if they show you how it's done, you're not going to want to watch them anymore. But it's actually just the opposite. It becomes more intriguing when you see how it's done. And then you see them do it again, you say, whoa, that's good.
I agree. I love watching it, and I think that we can kind of relate that with what we're doing with law of attraction. Is that the more we practice it, the easier it gets.
Mm-hmm. That's
and
right.
I know sometimes having to like reverse engineer, something that we've manifested. Go, wow, that was so fast, and going back and recognizing all the pieces that were there.
If you can find them.
Well,
sometimes I can't find them.
Yeah, well, I mean, sometimes it's really hard, but they're there.
Yep.
They're there. And it's sort of like, I totally get that, understanding how it's impossible to slow down, but we do the same thing with deliberate creation.
We do. Yeah.
We just get so good at it that pretty soon we don't have to dissect it. We don't have to make sure, well, did we do all 5 steps? Because this just starts to become natural.
And given what we know about how the law of attraction works, and more precisely how allowing works, the only way to slow it down is to feel more miserable. It's like, well, geez, I'm not sure I really want to try to do that.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. Let's not do that. Well, let's see where we go here.
Okay.
The next section, trading freedom for money.
Ah, yes.
And it's phrased as a question, trading freedom for money?
Yeah.
So what does Jerry say?
Jerry asks, well, I know we titled this book Money and the Law of Attraction, but it's really more about attracting abundance in all areas of our lives. Since my childhood, we in the United States have been fighting strongly against crime, and there is much more crime now than when I was a kid. I read recently that our nation has a higher percentage of its population in prisons than any other country in the, quote, free, unquote, world. We've been fighting against illness, and yet there are more hospitals and more sick people than ever before. There's so much more physical suffering in this nation, percentage-wise, now than I've ever seen. We've been pushing against warfare in our search for world peace, and yet it seems like such a short time ago that everyone was raving, isn't it wonderful as the Berlin Wall came down that we're finally in peace? But we hardly took 4 breaths until we were back in another series of wars, and now we're even putting more walls up around this nation. Also, I hear of so much concern about child abuse and the mistreating of other people, and yet the more I hear of our pushing against child abuse, the more child abuse I hear of. It seems like everything we're trying to do to stop what we don't want isn't working for us, but the area where this nation seems to continue to go in a more positive direction is that of abundance. We have so much food and money that we're able to give the world over from our excess abundance, and I see many more material things in the hands of more people in this country than during my early years. So there have been some major positive changes there. But so many people in their quest for more financial abundance seem to be losing quite a bit of their personal freedom as a trade-off for the money. It seems like there are those who seem to have a lot of free time, but they have so little money that they don't enjoy their time. And then there are those with more money but little time to enjoy the money. But it's rare that I meet someone who has both an abundant flow of money combined with the time to really enjoy it. Abraham, would you please comment on your perspective of my perspectives?
Abraham says, well, whether you are focused upon the lack of money or the lack of time, you're still focused upon the lack of something you want, and therefore holding yourself in resistance to the things you really want. Whether your negative emotion is because of your feeling of shortage of time, or whether it is because of your feeling of shortage of money, you're still feeling negative emotion, and you're still in a state of resistance, and therefore you are holding away what you really want. As you feel that you do not have enough time to do all of the things you need or want to do, your attention to lack negatively impacts you much more than you realize. A feeling of being overwhelmed is your indicator that you are denying yourself access to ideas, rendezvous, conditions, and all manner of cooperation that could assist you if you are not disallowing them. It is an uncomfortable cycle where you feel a shortage of time, you focus upon your overloaded schedule, and you feel overwhelmed. And in all of that, you offer a vibration that makes improvement impossible. You have to begin telling a different story, for you cannot continue to comment on how much you have to do without holding assistance away. There is a cooperative universe at your fingertips, ready and able to help you in more ways than you can begin to imagine. But you deny yourself that benefit as you continue to complain about too much to do. As you feel that you do not have enough money, your attention to the lack of money disallows the avenues that could bring you more. You just cannot look at the opposite of what you want and get what you want. You have to begin telling a different story. You have to find a way to create a feeling of abundance before abundance can come. As you begin to feel freer regarding the expenditure of time and money, doors will open, people will come to assist you, refreshing and productive ideas will occur to you, and circumstances and events will unfold. As you change the way you feel, you access the energy that creates worlds. It is there for your ready access at all times.
Abraham always surprises me. They really do. In this case, I thought for sure Abraham was going to talk about, well, you can't focus on war if you want peace. You can't focus on this. They didn't do that at all.
True. It's just what you focus on. And so I wanted to bring this up because I thought it as I was reading, and I always like this little method or trick where they say here, as you feel that you do not have enough money, your attention to the lack of money disallows the avenues that could bring you more.
Mm-hmm.
And they say you have to begin telling a different story. You have to find a way to create a feeling of abundance before abundance can come.
Yes.
And one of the things that I thought of when my kids were younger, and it was kind of funny because I taught them this and then they brought it back to me. And it was that all of the things we're abundant in. I was teaching them how to focus on abundance. And, that was during the time that they were probably very young teenagers and talking about summer jobs and, things like that, and wanting to have money for certain things and, wanting to make their own money so they could buy something they wanted. And I was teaching them about focusing on abundance. And one of the things that I was teaching them was anytime you go to get something you need, like at home, like let's say this morning I made a cup of tea before the podcast. How many tea bags did I need to make a cup of tea? I needed one.
Mm-hmm.
I had a whole drawer of them.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? How much shampoo do I need when I go in to wash my hair? I need about a teaspoon. Mm-hmm. And I have even if I had a quarter of a bottle, right? I have enough,
mm-hmm.
way more than enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it was so funny because we had a shopping list and there was something we had been looking for. I think it was a spice of some kind. And I had bought some when I went to the store. And then one of my sons was out running errands and he remembered we were out of this spice and he came home and he said, "Oh, I was at the store and I picked up this." And so we had 2 jars of it. Mm-hmm. And everyone burst into just cracking up laughing because all week what we had been saying is, I have more than enough. I need a teaspoon of shampoo. I have more than enough. I need a tea bag. I have more than enough. I need, whatever we needed, we'd realize I have more than enough. I have enough for today. And I have way more than enough. So we were laughing. We have more than enough.
That's
we
right.
had 2 big jars of whatever it was. But it's a nice thing to start doing during the day to realize how abundant we actually are.
Nice approach. I like that. Thinking about I have more than enough of this, more than enough of that, and especially stuff that we take for granted.
Right. It's I'm looking at this thing on my desk right here. There must be 20 pens in this jar right here. I need a pen. I have more than enough pens, right? It's this way in a lot of areas of our life. If we could just focus on that.
Yeah. Especially on those days where we're having trouble seeing anything but the negatives, which I have to say doesn't happen very often for me anymore. I like the work I've been doing on myself because I haven't had one of those days in a long, long time.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it is wonderful because I used to have a lot of them. But when we're in one of those situations where we can't seem to find anything that's going right, this is a nice little thing to include in our attempts to get out of that funk. Because even when the boss treat me badly, and the dog bit me, and the kids were yelling at me, and the husband was yelling at me, and my wife was yelling at me, and everybody was yelling at me, and I felt fat, and I couldn't get anything done, and my knee hurt, and blah, 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 all that stuff. In the midst of all of that, there's always something that's abundant. You just got to find it. In fact, there's usually a lot of them. You just got to find them.
That's the point, is once you start training your focus on it, you're going to see just how abundant you are.
In fact, even somebody who's stuck on a deserted island, they still have an abundance of sand and water.
Correct.
So, anyway, this has been good. We've run out of time, so we'll have to carry it on tomorrow. So look forward to doing that. Are you going to be here?
I will be here tomorrow.
And we hope you're here as well, here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.